The hidden danger of kindness, how being too nice can harm you, and how to stop it. We live in a world that preaches kindness. From childhood, we're taught to share, to be considerate, and to put others' needs ahead of our own. It's presented as the purest form of virtue. But does anyone ever tell us that this very kindness, when given without limits, can become a dangerous liability? We operate in a social ecosystem that isn't always fair. It's not a perfect equation where what you give is what you get. For the endlessly generous, this imbalance can be devastating, emptying them financially, draining them emotionally, and eroding their sense of self. Could being too kind even put your own life in danger? You might be surprised by the hidden costs of compassion. Today, we're diving deep into the paradox of kindness. We'll explore 8 serious consequences of being excessively nice and arm you with 4 powerful, Stoic-inspired strategies to protect your energy and prevent people from taking advantage of you. Let's begin. The 8 hidden costs of excessive kindness. 1. The crushing weight of unmet expectations. When you give constantly, a subtle, often unconscious, expectation builds within you, that others will reciprocate in your time of need. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, advised us to accept things as they are, not as we wish them to be. They taught that our happiness should not be dependent on the actions of others. By giving without attaching strings of expectation, you inoculate yourself against disappointment. You practice emotional detachment, which isn't coldness, but rather a path to a calmer, more resilient mind. The hard truth. You've trained people to receive, not to give. When your hopes for reciprocity are inevitably shattered, the result isn't just sadness. It's a toxic cocktail of resentment, exhaustion, and anger. And objectively, people aren't failing you, they are simply prioritizing their own tasks, just as you should be prioritizing yours. 2. You train people to expect your help, the comfort zone trap. Stoicism emphasizes that our true worth comes from acting with virtue and logic, not from blind obedience to the demands of others. Moderation is key. When you become a perpetual giver, you aren't just helping, you are conditioning those around you. People are creatures of habit. Your constant assistance becomes their new normal, their comfort zone. They adapt to a reality where their responsibilities are silently transferred to you. If you don't value your own time and energy, why should they? You cannot expect the people you help to suddenly look you in the eye and say, "You should think about yourself more." That empathy would require them to exit the very comfort zone you've built for them. 3. The abandonment of your own goals. The Stoic path is one of reason, virtue, and clear boundaries. It requires us to put our own core responsibilities and well-being first. This isn't selfish, it's foundational. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Often, relentless helping is a form of escape. It's a way to avoid the quiet, uncomfortable parts of our own lives. How do you feel when you're alone with your thoughts? If the answer is anxious or empty, using others' problems as a distraction is a dangerous game. The eventual crash is twofold. You must finally confront the self you've been avoiding, and you'll do it from a place of burnout and depleted energy. Self-care isn't a luxury, it's the essential maintenance required for a functional, generous life. Never offer someone a chocolate unless you've savored one yourself first. 4. You are perceived as weak, and treated accordingly. Stoicism teaches us to cultivate inner strength and self-command. By setting firm boundaries and practicing self-discipline, we signal to the world that we respect ourselves and our values, thereby commanding respect in return. Paradoxically, your constant help can project the exact opposite image. Without boundaries, people don't see a saint, they see a pushover. They see someone who cannot say no. This perception invites exploitation. The moment you finally use that magic word, no, is the moment you might finally earn their respect. Until then, you are seen as a convenient resource, not a strong individual. 5. You attract takers, not givers. This is a law of social energy. The relationships we attract are a reflection of the energy we emit. When we give indiscriminately, we deplete our own energy, lowering our vibrational frequency. This low-frequency signal acts as a beacon for needy, energy-draining individuals and opportunists. These people are not drawn to you for your vibrant spirit, they are drawn to what they can extract from you. They are the butters, the people who only reach out when they need something. They consume your energy without any intention of replenishing it, leaving you drained and surrounded by false friendships. 6. You enable harmful dependencies, in yourself and others. The Stoics champion calmness and self-mastery. Self-discipline in our giving prevents us from falling into destructive patterns. For the recipient, your constant help can foster helplessness, preventing them from developing their own resilience. For you, the giver, a more insidious dependency can form, an addiction to being needed. The praise and gratitude, the fix of feeling valuable, can become a drug. Furthermore, this internal emptiness can manifest in other addictions, overworking, overeating, or worse. If someone who cares about you expresses concern, pay attention. Defensiveness is often the first sign of a deeper problem. 7. You breed suspicion, not gratitude. We like to believe that kindness is universally understood, that a good deed naturally earns a good response. But in reality, the world doesn't always work this way. In an age where trust is scarce and self-interest dominates, overt generosity often invites skepticism, not appreciation. Seneca once said, "He who gives promptly, gives twice." Yet he also warned that true virtue expects nothing in return, not praise, not loyalty, not even recognition. But while philosophy advises detachment, human psychology plays by different rules. When your kindness exceeds what most people consider normal, it disrupts their expectations. Rather than seeing your actions as selfless, they suspect hidden motives. Why are you helping me? What do you really want? Nobody does this for free. The truth is, most people live in a transactional mindset. They've been conditioned to believe that generosity always carries a price. If you act outside this unspoken agreement, you become an outlier, and outliers make people uneasy. In some cases, your kindness can even provoke resentment. People may feel indebted or inferior, interpreting your generosity as a subtle power play, even when no such intention exists. Instead of gratitude, they respond with distance, coldness, or quiet suspicion. This is why Stoics advise, do good, but do not cling to its outcome. Expecting others to mirror your intentions leads only to disappointment. Virtue is its own reward. And yet, awareness is necessary. In a cynical world, unguarded kindness can make you appear naive, manipulative, or weak, even when your heart is pure. 8. You jeopardize your own safety. This is the most dangerous and least discussed cost of unfiltered kindness. It can put you directly in harm's way. Kindness, when uncontrolled by wisdom, becomes a beacon for predators, not just physical predators, but emotional manipulators, financial scammers, and power seekers. The world has those who hunt trust the way wolves hunt sheep. And the overly kind often wear their openness like an unspoken invitation, I won't question you. When you constantly give people the benefit of the doubt. When you refuse to set boundaries out of fear of offending. When you help simply because someone asks. You unintentionally expose yourself to exploitation. Financial predators exploit generosity, just lend me this. I'll pay you back. Emotional manipulators exploit empathy, if you loved me, you'd do this for me. Dangerous individuals exploit trust, don't worry, I won't hurt you. This doesn't mean you must become cold or suspicious of everyone. But it does mean that kindness should be paired with discernment, the ability to read intentions, assess risks, and establish boundaries. Remember Epictetus' teaching, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgment about them. The danger is not in kindness itself, but in unexamined kindness, the kind that acts without judgment, without questioning who benefits, who suffers, and why. In extreme cases, misplaced compassion has led people into abusive relationships, financial ruin, and physical danger, all because they could not say no when they should have. True wisdom lies in balance. Be compassionate, but do not be careless. Be generous, but do not be blind. Kindness is powerful, but when untethered from reason, it becomes a liability rather than a virtue. 9. You invite exploitation. There is a cruel reality: the more giving you are, the more takers you attract. Human nature contains both light and shadow, and while some will admire your generosity, others see it as an opportunity. Manipulators, scammers, and opportunists actively seek out the kind-hearted because they assume, often correctly, that you won't question their intentions. Your empathy becomes their entry point. That friend who only calls when they need money. The relative who guilt-trips you into sacrifices they'd never make for you. The stranger who plays on your emotions, knowing you can't bear to say no. Seneca warns us, the most dangerous kindness is that which cannot say no. Kindness without boundaries invites parasites. Once they know you're willing to give without limit, they keep taking, not out of need, but out of habit. And soon, what was once generosity becomes self-betrayal. The Stoic antidote: give consciously, not compulsively. Help when it aligns with your values, not simply when you're asked. 10. You create dependency, not empowerment. Sometimes, kindness unintentionally weakens the very people we try to help. When you constantly rescue someone from their problems, you may rob them of resilience, the strength they gain from facing life's challenges. A child whose every need is anticipated grows up unprepared for struggle. A friend who's always bailed out learns helplessness instead of responsibility. An employee shielded from failure stops innovating and taking ownership. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, do not do for others what they must learn to do for themselves. Compassion doesn't always mean solving problems, sometimes, it means allowing struggle so growth can occur. Kindness should empower, not entrap. Without discernment, you risk turning your generosity into a form of control, where others rely on you not because they can't survive, but because they don't have to try. 11. You erode your own boundaries. When kindness becomes a reflex rather than a choice, you start saying yes when you want to say no. Over time, this erodes your sense of self. Each unspoken resentment, each ignored discomfort, each time you sacrifice your needs to accommodate someone else, it chips away at your inner stability. Boundaries are not barriers to kindness, they are its protection. Without them, generosity curdles into exhaustion, resentment, and self-neglect. Epictetus said, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." Freedom means the power to decide where your kindness begins and where it must end. A boundary isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. 12. You risk becoming invisible. Ironically, those who give the most are often valued the least. When kindness becomes your default identity, people stop noticing it, and worse, they start expecting it. The colleague who always covers extra shifts eventually receives no thanks, only more requests. The partner who sacrifices constantly for the relationship is taken for granted. The friend who's always available stops being appreciated, becoming merely a convenience. This happens because human beings normalize what is consistent. When kindness has no edges, no contrast, it fades into the background. You stop being seen as generous, you become obligatory. The remedy is not to become cold, but to make your giving intentional. Give with clarity, not compulsion. Give because you choose to, not because you fear rejection. 13. You attract resentment instead of respect. This may seem paradoxical, but extreme kindness can actually breed hostility. Some people perceive constant generosity as a power imbalance, they begin to feel inferior, dependent, or even manipulated, regardless of your true intentions. A friend may resent you for always having it together. A sibling may feel overshadowed by your sacrifices. A partner may interpret your constant giving as silent judgment. The Stoics teach us to give quietly, without expectation, pride, or display. Seneca warned against performative virtue, reminding us that the loudest charity is often the least pure. Be kind, but do it with humility. When your generosity carries no weight of superiority, it's less likely to be met with resentment. 14. You deplete your emotional reserves. Kindness takes energy, even when it feels natural. Emotional labor, the unseen cost of caring, listening, helping, and supporting, can quietly drain you until you're running on empty. When you constantly pour into others without replenishing yourself, burnout follows. Fatigue creeps in. Resentment builds silently. You give so much that you forget who you are without the giving. The Stoic balance here is captured by Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Your strength must be preserved if your kindness is to remain sustainable. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's essential. A burned-out giver has nothing left to give. 15. You lose sight of intentional virtue. Finally, perhaps the deepest danger, excessive kindness can separate you from virtue itself. When your generosity is unconscious, automatic, or performative, it ceases to be a choice. Virtue, as the Stoics understood it, is not about doing good blindly, it's about acting with reason, balance, and purpose. A kindness offered without thought is not always moral. Helping a manipulator perpetuates harm. Shielding someone from consequences can enable their downfall. Trusting everyone equally can put innocents and predators on the same level. Seneca wrote, "No good act is good unless reason guides it." Kindness must flow from clarity, not compulsion. It should be an expression of your values, not a reaction to guilt, fear, or social expectation. When your kindness becomes intentional, measured, wise, and principled, it stops being dangerous and transforms into true strength. 16. You lose your sense of identity. Excessive kindness often comes at the cost of self-definition. When your primary role becomes serving, pleasing, and accommodating others, you risk losing touch with your own desires, values, and boundaries. You begin shaping yourself based on what others need from you, rather than who you truly are. Over time, you wake up one day and realize you don't know where you end and they begin. This is dangerous because your identity becomes externalized, tied to other people's approval and gratitude. The Stoics warned against this form of dependency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." To live authentically, your kindness must flow from your core values, not from fear of rejection or the desire to be liked. Otherwise, you risk becoming a mirror of other people's expectations, empty when left alone. 17. You enable toxic people. Unchecked generosity can make you a magnet for toxicity. Predators, narcissists, and manipulators are experts at detecting givers, people who struggle to set limits, who overextend themselves, and who prioritize others' comfort above their own well-being. At first, they appear charming, grateful, and appreciative. But slowly, they train you to accept imbalance. You give, they take. You compromise, they demand more. You forgive, they exploit again. Your kindness becomes the very weapon used against you. And by tolerating unacceptable behavior in the name of compassion, you silently communicate. It's okay to treat me this way. Epictetus warned us against confusing tolerance with virtue. If you are ever tempted to feel pity, first ask yourself whether it serves reason. Protecting your energy from toxic people isn't cruel, it's self-preservation. True kindness doesn't feed manipulation, it starves it. 18. You delay necessary confrontations. There's a quiet tragedy that lives in the hearts of kind-hearted people, the silent belief that avoiding conflict is the same as keeping the peace. You convince yourself that biting your tongue is noble. That staying quiet is mature. That smiling through discomfort is the higher road. But here's the paradox: avoiding confrontation doesn't prevent chaos, it merely postpones it. The tension doesn't dissolve, it festers. What you avoid addressing today will return tomorrow, often louder, sharper, and more destructive than before. The illusion of harmony. Imagine a friend spiraling into self-destructive habits, drinking excessively, making reckless choices, alienating loved ones. You see the storm coming, but you stay silent. It's not my place. I don't want to upset them. Your silence feels kind in the moment. But over time, your unspoken words turn into quiet resentment, guilt, and helplessness. And one day, when the consequences hit, they look at you with confusion. Why didn't you say something? Or consider the workplace, where a colleague repeatedly takes credit for your ideas. You let it slide to keep the peace. But weeks become months, and months become years, until you've built a reputation as invisible, silent, and replaceable, all because you thought confrontation would create chaos. Here's the truth, the chaos already exists. Your silence just hides it for a while. The Stoic perspective on courage. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius reminds us. If it is not right, do not do it, if it is not true, do not say it. Kindness, then, isn't passivity. It's honesty, tempered with wisdom. Real compassion sometimes hurts in the short term to heal in the long term. Think of a surgeon removing an infection, the cut is painful, but necessary. Likewise, confronting someone you love about destructive behavior may feel cruel at first, but silence allows the wound to deepen until it becomes fatal. Seneca taught that virtue requires courage, and courage often means choosing discomfort over avoidance. Kindness without courage is not kindness, it's fear disguised as virtue. Avoidance builds resentment. Every time you avoid saying what needs to be said, you trade short-term comfort for long-term damage. Resentment grows. You quietly collect emotional debts that others don't even know exist. Relationships weaken. People sense inauthenticity. Connection requires honesty. Your boundaries blur. Every silence teaches others that it's acceptable to cross you. Eventually, the confrontation you feared becomes unavoidable, but now it's bigger, heavier, and messier than it ever had to be. How to confront with kindness and strength. The Stoics didn't advocate aggression or coldness, they taught measured courage. Here's a practice rooted in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Clarify your intention. Before speaking, ask, am I doing this to help or to harm? Confrontation guided by ego leads to conflict. Confrontation guided by care leads to growth. Be direct but compassionate. State the facts calmly. Avoid blame. Replace, "you always do this," with, "I feel hurt when this happens." Detach from the outcome. You cannot control how someone responds. Stoicism teaches that your role is to act with integrity, not to guarantee understanding. The paradox of confrontation is this: honesty builds deeper harmony than avoidance ever can. Choosing short-term discomfort prevents long-term destruction. 19. You weaken your resilience. Kindness carries a hidden trap. When you constantly protect others, or yourself, from hardship, you slowly rob everyone involved of emotional strength. Resilience, like muscle, grows only through resistance. Without friction, we atrophy. Without struggle, we soften. Without failure, we remain fragile. When you cushion every blow, when you rescue everyone who stumbles, when you avoid saying no to protect your own comfort, you unknowingly create dependency and weakness. Life demands friction. Life is not meant to be painless. The Stoics understood that difficulty is the training ground of the soul. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." If we live only within the boundaries of ease and comfort, our emotional muscles deteriorate. The moment life demands strength, we find ourselves unprepared. For example, a parent who shields their child from every consequence raises an adult unready for reality. A manager who constantly fixes problems for employees creates a team incapable of independent thought. A partner who always absorbs pain to keep the peace eventually collapses under the weight of silent sacrifices. Kindness without balance creates fragility, not resilience. The fragility trap. When you never expose yourself to discomfort, when you avoid rejection, failure, and conflict, you build a bubble of false security. But bubbles always burst. The person who avoids saying no develops quiet anxiety every time they're asked for something. The friend who gives endlessly develops bitterness when the same energy isn't returned. The overly protected child grows into an adult terrified of real-world challenges. This is why Stoicism encourages voluntary hardship. Marcus Aurelius practiced sleeping on the floor, eating simple food, and training his mind to endure difficulty, even as emperor. Why? Because strength fades when unused. Empowering through discomfort. Real kindness doesn't shield people from pain, it helps them face it. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing you can do is step back. Let a friend learn from their mistakes instead of endlessly rescuing them. Say no when saying yes would enable irresponsibility. Allow yourself to fail, to be rejected, to endure difficulty, so you can grow stronger. Resilience isn't built by avoidance. It's built by engaging with reality, even when reality is hard. 20. You drift away from self-mastery. Among the Stoics, self-mastery was considered the highest form of freedom, the power to act based on reason, not compulsion. But excessive kindness often isn't reasoned, it's reactive. You help because you can't bear to disappoint. You give because you fear rejection. You overextend yourself, not from choice, but from obligation. In these moments, kindness is no longer a virtue, it's submission disguised as goodness. The tyranny of compulsion. If you cannot say no without guilt, cannot tolerate others being unhappy with you, cannot stop overgiving even when it harms you, then you are not choosing kindness, you are trapped by it. You are ruled by fear, shame, and the need for approval. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. True happiness, therefore, cannot exist when your actions are driven by fear of rejection or desire for validation. To reclaim freedom, you must act intentionally, not reflexively. Kindness as strength, not weakness. Kindness without boundaries is self-erasure. But kindness rooted in wisdom is powerful. You give because it aligns with your values, not because you fear saying no. You help without expecting praise, but without sacrificing self-respect. You choose compassion deliberately, rather than compulsively. This is what the Stoics meant by virtue, right action, chosen consciously. The paradox of guided kindness. Here lies the heart of the matter. When kindness is guided by wisdom, it elevates both you and others. When kindness is driven by fear, it slowly erodes dignity, security, and identity. The goal, then, isn't to be less kind. It's to become conscious in your kindness. Measured, balanced, and intentional. Ask yourself with every act of giving. Am I doing this out of love or out of fear? Am I empowering or enabling? Am I acting from choice or compulsion? When your answer aligns with reason and values, kindness becomes strength. When it doesn't, it becomes self-betrayal. Final reflection. Kindness is not weakness. But when left unguided by wisdom, it carries hidden costs. You delay necessary confrontations, creating deeper wounds. You weaken resilience, yours and others. You surrender self-mastery, trading inner freedom for external approval. The Stoics didn't reject kindness, they refined it. They understood that true compassion sometimes means saying no, standing firm, speaking uncomfortable truths, and allowing struggle to shape strength. Real kindness walks hand in hand with courage. It doesn't avoid discomfort, it walks through it. The 4 Stoic strategies to protect yourself. You cannot control others, but you can absolutely control how you respond. Here's how to apply ancient Stoic wisdom to build modern-day boundaries. Strategy 1. Practice relentless self-awareness, listen to your feelings. The Stoics were profound advocates of self-examination. Your emotions are a built-in navigation system. Pay attention to how you feel after an interaction. Do you feel energized and fulfilled, or drained and resentful? Anger and fatigue are not signs that you're a bad person, they are flashing red lights indicating that your boundaries have been violated. Use this data. Don't lie to yourself about the cost of your help. This honest self-assessment is your first and most powerful line of defense. Strategy 2, reclaim the word no, your shield of self-respect. Your time and energy are finite, sovereign resources. The Stoic practice of self-control is exercised powerfully through the simple, clear word, no. Understand that, no, is a complete sentence. It requires no elaborate justification. Practicing this word is not about being rude, it's about being honest and respecting your own limits. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to your own peace, priorities, and well-being. It is the ultimate tool of liberation. Strategy 3, sanctify your time and space, the unbreakable appointment. Stoicism is built on self-discipline and self-respect. This means scheduling and fiercely guarding time for your own goals, hobbies, and rest. This is non-negotiable maintenance. Treat this time as an unbreakable appointment with your most important client, yourself. If a request infringes on this sacred time, the answer is automatically no, or at the very least, I can help you at specific time later, but only for specific limited duration. This communicates that you value your own life, forcing others to value it as well. Strategy 4. Identify and distance yourself from energy vampires, strategic discernment. Stoic wisdom requires discernment. Not everyone is worthy of your energy. It is an act of self-preservation to identify those who only take and to consciously distance yourself from them. These energy vampires are characterized by their constant complaints, catastrophizing, and lack of reciprocity. They will drain you dry under the guise of friendship. Helping them is often futile, as solving their problems would deprive them of their identity as a victim. Your duty is not to save them, it is to protect your own energy so you can effectively help those who truly deserve it and are willing to help themselves. Conclusion: the Stoic middle path. The Stoics believed that the path to a good life was found in the golden mean, the virtuous middle ground between extremes. This absolutely applies to kindness. The goal is not to become heartless and selfish. The goal is to evolve from unthinking generosity to wise compassion. True strength lies in balanced giving. True strength does not lie in endless sacrifice. It does not lie in giving until there is nothing left of you. It lies in balanced giving, a quiet mastery over your impulses, your emotions, and your boundaries. Balanced giving means offering help from a place of abundance, not emptiness. It means you pour into others without draining yourself dry. You act out of compassion, not guilt. You choose generosity, but not at the cost of your dignity, your peace, or your sense of self. This is where wisdom and kindness meet. Because giving without limits may look noble, but when it comes from fear, obligation, or the craving for approval, it ceases to be virtue, it becomes self-betrayal. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that goodness is not measured by how much you give, but by why you give. The act itself must be guided by reason, not compulsion, by strength, not submission. The art of saying no. One of the hardest lessons for the kind-hearted is this. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing you can do is say no. You are not unkind for refusing to be exploited. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. You are not cruel for setting boundaries that honor your values. The word no is not rejection, it is self-respect. It protects your time, your well-being, and your freedom. It allows your kindness to remain sustainable rather than self-destructive. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And one of the most powerful thoughts you can carry is this: I am not obligated to destroy myself to save others. When you honor yourself first, your generosity becomes purer, an expression of love, not fear, of strength, not weakness. Be kind. Be generous. But be wise. So yes, be kind, but let your kindness be deliberate. Be generous, but let your generosity be grounded in wisdom. Give without chains. Help without losing yourself. Love without erasing your own needs. And when doubt creeps in, when you feel pressured, manipulated, or uncertain, return to the simplest and most virtuous tool in the Stoic arsenal. The power to say no. Because real compassion is not blind. Real kindness is not self-sacrifice. Real strength is measured, intentional, and free. Final reflection. If this journey has shifted the way you think about kindness, consider sharing these insights with others who need them. A simple act of awareness can ripple farther than we imagine. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more daily reflections on Stoic wisdom, timeless lessons to help you navigate the chaos, complexity, and beauty of modern life with clarity and strength. Thank you for watching. Thank you for seeking. And above all, thank you for choosing to be conscious in your kindness. Because in the end,